Hello, gang, and welcome to the Road Theater Company on Magnolia. You are very familiar with this place if you have been with us at TheatriCamp before. Come on in with me, won't you? Remember this? So this is going to be our home base for this camp. The staff and I will be working out of here, and those of you that will be coming to us in person will come here. Come on inside with me, won't you? Take a look if you haven't seen it for a while. Or if you've never seen it before, here we are. It has been scrubbed and sanitized and alcohol wiped to within an inch of its life. So between that and all of the distancing and the masks, we're going to have other kind of face shields that we're going to use. Lots of hand sanitizer and soap and all that good stuff. And I think we're in good shape. I think everybody who is coming in will feel certainly safe and secure that we are doing our best and following the protocols, and everybody hopefully will be just fine. So come on in with me, won't you? Here, let's walk down. For those that have not been here before, this is a 75-seat house on Magnolia Boulevard in NoHo. This is part of the NoHo Senior Arts Colony. Theater's about 7 years old, and we have done almost all of our camps here in this building. We love this space, the home of the Road Theater Company. Follow me this way. I'll show you the other place where we're going to be working, down this hallway. Again, for those of you that have been here before, you know the drill. Both spaces have plenty of room. They're well ventilated, and we'll be able to multitask as we need to. This is our green room, or rehearsal room, or the room of requirements, as we like to call it. If you've, for those of you that have been here, you'll notice, ooh, there's new things. There's cabinets in here now. This is the Road's rehearsal space, and this will be a secondary spot where we will work during the camp. I just wanted to show this to you so that you would know where we will be and where those of you that are coming in will be and working. But I also want to take a moment just to really emphasize that for those that are choosing not to come in for health and safety reasons, that is absolutely fine with us. There's totally no judgment about that, obviously. Everybody has to do what they feel is safe and right for them, and we don't want any of these choices to, be in any sort of a problem one way or the other. If you do come in and work with us, that won't give you any sort of specific advantage, because we're gonna do our due diligence to work out with you online and make sure you have the same amount of time and attention on the stuff that you're working on. And if you are working at home, you won't miss out on anything because of that. So we're rocking and rolling with it, and we're gonna use the technology to kind of make it all the great equalizer as we give everybody as much time as we possibly can. So let me give you information that we would normally do in our orientation session. We'll just kind of sort of get it out of the way right now. Try to explain a few of these new camp methods in detail, and then you can follow up and ask me any questions that you might have. First of all, this is our 7th year doing TheatriCamp. This is actually our 11th camp, and certainly the most unique by far, and the first time we've tried anything like this, of course. I always want to acknowledge Lori Jaroslaw, who started this camp with me back in 2014. And if we were doing a full production, she would probably be back with us again, around doing costumes and various things. But obviously, since we're not, she won't be around. But we always acknowledge this camp would not have happened without my partnership with Lori that began 6 years ago. So thanks as always to Lori. The philosophy of the camp, we always want to just mention briefly that, it's especially true this year. I always want to say it isn't just about putting on a show. And it turns out we're not even putting on a show, at least not a traditional show this year, but it's really about, the craft of musical theater, which involves singing, dancing, and acting. And it's always important to us to get to know each camper individually, to see where they are in terms of their experience and skill set, and see if after a 3-week period we can't, bump them up one step, improving their skills and their knowledge and their confidence in performing. Obviously, for some kids, this is just for fun because they love to sing and dance and be social whenever we can be social. But we also know that we have campers who for whom this is very serious and they have aspirations to do big things.
perhaps in high school, perhaps professionally and beyond. So we also want to, make sure that they have what they need to help them be better. And that's our basic philosophy. And all of the material that we use in the camp is obviously just a means to an end. And obviously, we always put on a show of some kind, but it's more than just about the show. And that's our general philosophy. Um, We'll talk about the show in just a second. So let's just talk about this online world of Zoom. I mentioned before that we are very weary of or wary of Zoom fatigue. I think a lot of the kids that have had to do school via Zoom, I've talked to several people about it, and obviously, it's not very interactive. It can get very boring, feel very disconnected. So we're obviously going to use it very specifically and sparingly, at least in terms of the group stuff. This will be different than what they were used to sitting in a session with 20 or 30 or more kids on the same session, listening to a teacher try to instruct. This will be more like, for those of you that have had Zoom chats with friends, two or three or four at a time. It'll be much more interactive most of the time. Um, but Zoom is our friend, and we're going to make good use of it as best we can. So there are three online tools that we're going to use when it comes to how we're going to manage doing this mostly remotely. And again, everybody is going to have a lot of time in camp that will be strictly online. For those that are coming in person from time to time, that obviously will be an added element. But even for them, there's going to be quite a bit of online stuff that we have to do. So there are three main online tools that we want everybody to be familiar with and ready to work with. Here, I'm going to pull this right out of the handbook. And that's what I'm going to talk about here, those three things, right? So Zoom, obviously, most everybody does, but if you don't yet, make sure you download Zoom, physically download the app, either onto your computer or whatever device you're going to be using. We really do recommend, if at all possible, that if you can set your camper up with a computer in a quiet room that has a little bit of floor space around it so that they could do something physical, that would be the ideal environment to put them in. Now, obviously, that's not always possible. You might not have a spare computer around. In some cases, folks are working at home at the same time, so there might not be a separate place for them to be. Obviously, you're going to work with whatever you got, and we'll make it work. But ideally, I think their experience is going to be better if they're on a computer where the screen is bigger and they can kind of see faces and feel more kind of inside of the experience and not looking at it through a tiny little screen. And if they can be in a room where they can just not have distractions around and hear and be heard, and then even if they can get up and move around a little bit, that would be ideal. Anyway, it's best to have it physically downloaded. What we'll do every day is we'll send you a link, and the way it works is all you should have to do is click on the link on the device that you're going to use, and then that should take you right into the Zoom meeting. So that is Zoom. Then there is Band. Those of you that I guess a lot more people are familiar now with the app Band. My thinking was that it would be very helpful over the course of our 3 weeks if there was some sort of social media, online situation where we could just be in touch all the time. But obviously, we want to stay out of the Facebook world. I know a lot of folks, certainly do not want to have their younger kids on Facebook or exposed to any of that. So what's great about Band is that we can create our own environment that only those of us who are participating, can touch. And so it's safe. And that's a quick and easy way to update the schedule, post notices. They can chat with each other. We can share all kinds of a flow of information. And I would just keep whatever device you might have, download Band. I will send you an invitation to that page, and then you'll be logged in. And then during the course of every day and even overnight, you can check the Band app just to see what the latest news and what's going on. I think that will help everybody feel more connected because we can't all be in the room together. And again, they can even have individual chats with each other. They can share photos if they want to, and it'll only be us in our little circle that'll be using it. So the band app is number 2. And then, of course, Dropbox. If you don't already have a Dropbox, those of you that have done camp with us in the past, we use that. I will send you an invitation to a folder, and all of the material that we're using will be in there, and that way it'll be easy access to grab whatever we're working on, whether it be music tracks or lyric sheets or videos or links to videos that we might be referencing, that kind of thing. It's best when the camper is working from home to download the piece of music that they're working on onto a device, ideally a different device than the one that Zoom is on. So like ideally if you were on Zoom on a computer and then using a phone or some other device that can play music next to it would be the ideal situation. And that way the instructor can work with the camper who's got the music and their voice together in sync, working across the online world. That would be the most ideal way to do that. So that is online stuff. Now, in terms of our in-person location, we're going to be, for those of you who have done camp with us before, we're going to be at the Road Theater Company's Magnolia space where we normally do our performances. The Road on Magnolia, as we call it. It's at the NoHo Senior Arts Colony on Magnolia Boulevard, right in NoHo. That's where we're going to be. So our staff, who you will meet coming on Monday, Jane Ava, who's been with us before for many, many a camp, Audrey Bates, who's worked with me on the Roosevelt shows the last couple of years. Those will be, it'll be the 3 of us working together. We're all going to be in this space at the Road on Magnolia and working either in person or online, and we'll be able to kind of coordinate with each other. We can all have our separate rooms so we can stay distanced and all that kind of stuff. Please know that I have scrubbed this location from stem to stern, disinfected everything, wiped down every surface, vacuumed and scrubbed every surface. We will have obviously soap available. We'll have hand sanitizers available. We'll have alcohol wipes available. We will take everyone's temperature when they come in the morning. Anybody who's coming into the building, we'll have extra masks available. We'll have visors that I'll show you in a second that will be available. So we're doing everything that we are required to do and just as common sense to do to help, in addition to being socially distant, to make sure that we're being responsible and safe, during this time. So that's what's going on in this space. And we'll get into, if you're coming here, we'll get into that a little more in detail in a second. Let me just talk about the schedule now. This is a little difficult to explain. It'll make a lot more sense once we get into it, but we are shifting our camp hours. So we seem to have a pretty good consensus that folks would love to not have to, have their kid up and ready to go at 9 o'clock in the morning when nobody's on that kind of schedule these days, and most parents don't have to run off to work somewhere else. So we're going to do a 10 to 4 now. So we shift everything by an hour to what we would normally do in camp. Each day we'll start off with a Zoom group meeting, and it's probably the only time each day that we're going to do that. And we don't want to wear that out. Again, we know that's what's the least interesting to everybody. But we feel like because we're so separated in so many ways on this camp that we should come together at the beginning of every day. I can check in and see everybody, chat with everybody a little bit. Jane or Audrey will lead everyone in a brief physical, and yes, you can do a physical warm-up even if you've just got one little 3 square foot area of space to stand in. Physical warm-up and vocal warm-up. We are figuring out how to do that in this new age. We'll just do some announcements about the day, and then we are going to be doing a couple of group songs, and I'll talk about the show more in detail in a second, but just a couple that everybody's going to do together. So we'll spend a little time working on that stuff. That's what we will do in the first hour of the day, and we probably won't take the whole hour. It'll just be that 10 to 11 block. We'll probably be online together for 30 or 40 minutes as a big group at the beginning of the day. And then everybody will kind of split into their own separate activities. And I'll talk about kind of how that breaks down in just a second. But just in terms of if you're looking at the physical makeup of the day, so 10 to 11 o'clock is our, opening um, meeting every day. 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, that 2 hour block will be what we're calling our morning session. And I'll talk about what's involved with that in a moment. We'll take a break from 1 to 1:30. It'll be a lunch break for us, but honestly, again, in this environment, the campers should feel free to take lunch, grab a bite to eat at their convenience anywhere along the way, whenever makes sense. From 1:30 until 3:30 will be our afternoon session, and then 3:30 until 4 or whatever we'll do we'll wrap up the day. So we're basically talking about our introductory part of the day, and then a morning session and an afternoon session. Now, in those sessions, each camper's day will be different, and each of their days will be different. But during the morning session and the afternoon session, uh, on any given day, they'll be participating in one of the following things. They will either be with us here in the theater in person, um, working on a piece. If not here, they'll be home doing a one-on-one Zoom session, just as though they were here, but from the comfort of their own homes, doing a session. And again, those sessions would be rehearsals. So it'll be working on whatever number they happen to be working on for that session. So either in person or online. If they're not involved in a rehearsal with one of us, then another thing they might be doing for one of those morning sessions or afternoon sessions would be working with one of our counselors, Samantha Salamoff, for those of you that know our camp and know Sammy well. Sammy's going to be senior this year at Burroughs. She's part of Powerhouse, extremely talented and a great counselor and teacher, and loves working with kids on their material. So she's going to be one of our she'll be our chief counselor, basically, and we'll have additional folks that will kind of help in with counseling work. But she's our main gal, and so you might have a session with her, whether it's a solo or a duet or a trio, whatever your song that you're working on is. One of the things you might be doing on a morning session or afternoon session is spending time with her on Zoom, just having her run stuff with you, run lines, run music, work on the notes, work on the words, work on the acting, whatever it is, working further on your number. If you're not doing one of those things, then we're also going to be having uh, probably once a week, maybe even more than once a week, we want to offer sort of workshop seminar kind of class sessions. We normally don't have a lot of time to do that during a camp because we have so much material to get through and we have so many kids and the time goes by so fast and staging group numbers takes a long time. But something we love to do as part of this camp is just extra credit educational stuff having to do with theater, like audition technique or how to self-tape at home, or other stuff about the business, other stuff about the craft that we can kind of spend a little time focusing on in a Zoom session for anyone who wants to participate. So that might be, if you don't have anything going on in the morning session or the afternoon session on one of the days we're offering one of those programs, then you can participate in that. We're also going to record those and post them. So if you are rehearsing while we're doing one, you can circle back and you can watch it. Or if you weren't available for camp that day for whatever reason, you still wanted to hear what we talked about, those will be available. So we'll be doing at least 3 of those, maybe more. And that will occupy some of our morning session, afternoon session time. And obviously we'll let you know in advance, when we're doing those. And then for those that aren't doing any of those things, either on a morning or an afternoon or even most of the day on any given day, then we're going to have special Zoom rooms for fun that you can join in. And it's totally up to each camper if they want to jump in for the whole time, for part of the time. But it's basically the equivalent of what we do at camp when someone happens to not be working on something for a little while. They'll go into another room and do improv or do theater games. We are working on ways to do actual improv games online and still get a lot out of it. And we're also talking about doing maybe sort of a karaoke session. Oftentimes, the kids love the music that other kids are singing, or they just want to sing songs that they've done in the past in camp, or have other favorites that they want to work on, or I'm going to guess in the case of most of these kids, just want to sing Hamilton music all day long. So the idea is you can pop into a Zoom room when we're doing karaoke, and it'll be led by Sammy or one of our counselors, and sing away and have fun. And the singing and also the improv, particularly the improv, it's both meant to be a fun activity, but also meant to be a bit of a training and learning experience. Improv is great acting training in addition to just being fun. And, any of our counselors that are working, with a kid on a karaoke piece, can also offer a little instruction about singing it a little better. And so it's a dual purpose. It's a fun camp thing to do, and also is very relevant to learning what we're here to learn. Um, so those will be the kinds of things that will be going on during the day. So again, it's going to be different every day for every camper. You might be rehearsing here at the theater on a morning session and then have nothing scheduled in the afternoon, so you can um, do a Zoom room and have fun. Or you might have an in-person Zoom session with one of us in the morning, and then another time scheduled with one of our counselors to work on another piece of material. It'll be different from day to day. And I guess the benefit of uh, not being here, as sad as we are to not have the kids be able to be social and interactive, but there's also a little bit of, if I'm just tired and I want to like chill out for about a half an hour before I jump back into something else, you're at home, you can do that. So we're going to play it by ear, but that's basically how the days are going to go. Just know that in this environment, just like any camp, honestly, we won't always be actively engaging every camper every minute of every day. That's just how it always goes, because we have to try to get to everybody. But that's why we want to have these kind of Zoom rooms available most of the time, so that if they just want to stay busy doing something fun and they aren't working on a specific number at that time, then there's something that they can do to interact and have fun with others in the camp. So that's how the day will go. For our performance, obviously we're not going to gather together here to do this, but we are going to have a show of sorts. So the idea is that we will record every number that we do. Probably the way it would work is that we'll have the first rehearsal with whatever your number may be. And again, this could be a solo, duet, or a trio, maybe even a quartet, depending. Um, we'll have our first couple of hour rehearsal. Then you'll go away and work on it a little bit and digest and absorb, and then come back, maybe have a brush up rehearsal, and then we will record it. If you're here in the theater, we will record it for you. If you're at home, we'll either teach you how to self-tape, or maybe your mom and dad can grab their iPhone and record them and send me the tape. And we will accumulate all of this material that we're working on, and I will edit it all together. And then we will have a show that we can watch. I want to do 2 group numbers. And if you've seen these online, anytime a choir sings online, each of them from their own home, or an orchestra plays and all the musicians are at home, there's no way to do that live over Zoom. If you've tried it, you know why. There's enough of a delay in our signal over Wi-Fi, as fast as it is, even like an eighth of a second of a delay. And if you have 10 people, it's a different eighth of a second amongst all of them. Nothing can stay in sync, and it's a cacophony and a horrible, monstrous noise instead of a beautiful piece of music. So what they do is every single singer or every single musician records their piece independently, and then the editor puts all of those together in sync, and that's how they play in sync. So I would like to do that with 2 numbers, an opening number and a finale, where everybody participates. They will just all record their pieces individually, and then we'll cut them together. So that's something else that we'll have to have recorded. And then sometime after camp, I'm not sure when yet. It might be that weekend. It might be like the 26th, or maybe the following weekend. I'm not sure when yet. Part of it will depend on how long it takes me to put the show together in the editing room. Um, we will have a follow-up viewing party where everybody can come in to, again, a Zoom meeting. And we can invite friends and family to also tune in and join if they want to watch. And we'll watch the show together from beginning to end. And then, and then I can make that available if someone couldn't make the session for whatever reason. I can make it available so that you have it. So that's kind of how we're going to do our performance, and then everybody can see each other's work, and it'll be the most semblance of a show that we can possibly do. So again, the show will be made up of the opening number, the closing number, and then a series of solos, duets, trios, quartets strung in between. Our theme this year is just Broadway. It's much more open-ended than we often do for a camp. It's not about an era. It's not about a composer. It's pretty much anything that's ever been on Broadway is fair game. So it can certainly be stuff that we've done in the past or stuff we've never done. Really, the sky's the limit. I have numbers that I would like to do. I have some specific numbers for some specific campers that I would like to try. But then we're going to take your suggestions, your requests for what you would like to do, and if two or three pieces that you want to do we feel like are appropriate, that you can actually that you're ready for, or someone else isn't otherwise doing, it's a great opportunity for us to actually get to people to actually kind of pick their own material a bit. So we want to do that as much as we can, and that's pretty cool. So that's kind of what will make up the show. Everybody will be in the opening and closing number. I'd like everybody to be in at least two numbers beyond that. And depending on what kind of time we have or what people are interested in, we can do more material in less time in this format, interestingly enough, than we normally can in a regular camp. So you could be, in 5 or 6 numbers, maybe. It just kind of depends on all of that. So we'll see how that goes. If you're wondering about costumes, we're obviously not going to worry about costuming folks. The thing to do would be the thing that pretty much all actors in this town do if they have an audition or a showcase kind of a thing. They just go to their closet, they look for the clothing that is most appropriate to whatever it is that they're doing that they already own, and they just make it work. And if we have like a specific piece or a prop or something like that, that's part of what we're working on, we'll deal with that then. But as far as costumes go, nothing more than that. Now, for those of you that are coming in person, let me just give you a few things that you need to know before you come. First of all, the address for the Road on Magnolia is in the handbook, 10747 Magnolia Boulevard in North Hollywood. You enter at the doors that are right underneath the big marquee that say the Red Theater Company, among other things. So that's where your drop off and pickup will be. The lobby is plenty big enough to be able to, for people to distance out when they're in their pickup and drop off mode. The sign in and sign out is not quite as stringent as we normally do, because we're only going to be seeing a couple of people at a time. So we're going to be looking for you. We're going to meet you at the door, and we're going to make sure that we see you out the door, without a lot of confusion in the room. So that'll be pretty straightforward. Obviously, everyone is required to wear a mask. And face masks, extra face masks will be available. I have a whole stock. And if it makes sense and everyone's comfortable with it, when we get on stage and we're working, completely socially distanced. But if you're at least 6 to 10 feet away from another performer you might be on stage with, or from the director who's working with you, just so we can see your mouth, just so we can see your face when we're working, we will provide these handy dandy face shields for you. And you've seen these, I'm sure. They just fit over your head like this, kaboom, just like that. And it provides enough of a barrier so that while you're singing or talking and someone else is singing and talking, we can see your face and you can still interact. So everyone will have their own with their name on it, so they won't share. They can be cleaned and reused. We can clean them for you. We'll make those available just so that when you're on stage, you have that extra layer of protection and we can see your face. So that's awesome. Um, Obviously, if you are feeling ill, if your camper is feeling ill at all, don't come in. Obviously, if you have a fever, don't come in. If any of us on the staff likewise don't feel well or have a fever, we won't come in. We'll work from home and we'll work around it. That's just common sense these days. Um, Please, by all means, bring some water, bring stuff with your name on it so that we don't confuse it with anybody else's, and a snack if you feel like you're going to need it. But again, you're never going to be with us for more than 2 hours at a time. And we don't want to do meals or anything like that there. We just don't want to go to additional, opportunity for anything that is less than what we need to be doing these days. So just plan that. We will have everybody who will be coming to the theater sign a liability waiver. That's just something we all have to do now these days when you come into a spot publicly, and an emergency contact paper just to make sure that if something happens in those 2 hours when your child is with us, we know how to reach you. So just standard stuff that we would do. And obviously, if there's anything else we need to know when you're dropping your kid off with us, normally we have this all prepared and ramped up to go because they're with us 6 hours a day. But even for a couple of hours a day, if there's something we should know, um, just make sure we're aware when you drop your child off or ahead of time. Uh, we, again, for social distancing and other reasons, hopefully this will be a glorious opportunity where you get to drop your child off and go away for a couple hours and do whatever you want with your life, whatever you're allowed to do these days. So you can feel free to just leave them here. You don't have to stay put, and run off and take care of your life and then come back and pick them up. So that's how it will go when they are here for those of you that are coming. And again, I just want to say it for the umpteenth time. If you have decided you don't want them to come to us in person, that is completely fine. That is completely understandable. Everybody has to make their own choice. We completely respect it. And we are going to do everything we can to make sure their experience is just as good or as good as it can possibly be this way. They'll get just the same level of attention. It'll just be in this version instead of one-on-one. On the other hand, if you're perfectly happy to come in as many times as you can, and you're comfortable with that, then we'll try to do that as well. But it won't create an imbalance, in the camp one way or the other. All right, so those are the basics. Most of the stuff is in the handbook that you can review. Obviously, if you have any questions or concerns of any kind, be in touch with me at any point. But I just wanted to get this orientation kind of stuff out of the way before we get to Monday. Now you've heard it all, seen it all, and that we can hit the ground running on Monday. Monday will probably be a more involved group session at the very beginning, just because we want to introduce everybody and I want to hear from everybody. So Monday morning session will probably be much more of a group Zoom thing, but that will be the exception to the rule. The rest of the time will be as we've described. So we're very excited. This will be a salve on the wounds of these days, to be able to see each other, to be able to do something kind of normal, to work with each other. And I miss these kids desperately, and I'm so happy to get to actually see them and interact with them a little bit here. And I think we're going to have a really, really good time. And who knows, we may discover some really awesome, cool stuff that we wouldn't have otherwise thought of, and some of these things might become part of our routine going forward. You never know. But we are looking forward to seeing you all at TheatriCamp. That's it for now, and we'll talk to you Monday.